How's it going, everybody? GameStake here, back with another video. Today bringing you what if Yusuke was in Dragon Ball. Now, if you don't know where Yusuke is from, it's from an old show known as Yu Yu Hakusho that was made around the time that I think my dad was born. Hold up, let me check. No, okay, maybe it was made when my dad was like 11, so it was made in 1992. It's a pretty old series, but it's not as old as Dragon Ball or even Dragon Ball Z, to be honest. But yeah, today we're going to be doing what if Yusuke was in Naruto. So let's start it off with saying, well, how would Yusuke get there? And after discussing with a couple of my friends, we came up with a couple of ideas. The first one we had was Yusuke and Naruto would both die. And hold on for a second, and we do the whole spirit agency thing where Botan would come and be like, yo, you want to live again? Well, then do this, this, and this, and this. But I feel like, honestly, to me, that'd be the least likely way of Yusuke being in the Naruto universe. The second one that we came up with was that Yusuke would still do all the things in his world, but he would go over to the Naruto world at a couple points to do his spirit stuff, like his spirit detective work. But honestly, I feel like that's adding a bit too much just in like the whole Yu Yu Hakusho timeline, trying to throw in times that he went in doing Naruto stuff, because like the only times we could really think of him going there would be during the 6-month time skip with his training, or the 2-week time skip and all that. And I feel like that's kind of hard to balance between what happens between Yu Yu Hakusho and Naruto. So I think the most likely way for Yusuke to be in the Naruto universe would actually have to be Yusuke being born there, but him still having chakra, but also having that like spiritual ability, right? In some ways, in like shonen and all the shonen stuff, it's like everything is actually kind of together, like how spirit energy, spiritual pressure are both considered the same as like chakra and ki, but every single world uses it in a different way. So I think we can go along with that theory, which is spiritual pressure, or the spirit energy, is just chakra being used in a different way. And so with Yusuke, his body wouldn't be able to use chakra in the same way that everybody else is, but we'll get to that later. For now, let's talk about him in the beginning of Naruto. So I feel like with the backstory part of it, everything in Naruto would stay the same. Let's just keep that in. Everything is the same. Minato still dies, all that. The Nine Tails attack still happens. I feel like to make it make sense, I think we should say that Yusuke's father dies during the Nine Tails attack, and he's left with his mother. So with that, we'll still have the whole Yusuke only has a mother that we know of. His mother is still a slob and all that. With that, Yusuke would have more of a attitude somewhat similar to Sasuke's, but would act more like Naruto, if that makes sense. So his maturity was on the same level of Sasuke, right? With the whole, like, he's quiet, he doesn't want to talk to too many people, and he's kind of threatening if he wants to be. I guess Sasuke wasn't that threatening when he was in the academy years, but if he gave you the glare, you'd be kind of scared, as Naruto showed when they were first introducing themselves, and Sasuke was like, and I want to kill a certain someone, and Naruto was all like, wait, I hope that isn't me. Yusuke would kind of give off that same energy, but he wouldn't, and when I say he acts like Naruto, he kind of, like, when he went to school, would hang out with Naruto. If we're being honest, with the academy grades, his whole thing with shadow clones would kind of be like Naruto's, honestly, where he wouldn't be able to make them almost at all. Like when he did the hand signs, he wouldn't be able to use chakra, but when it came to everything else, he was above average, which was surprising on how much he skipped school or liked to ditch school, still picked fights with some of the other kids. But because this is the Naruto universe, they wouldn't have to deal with turfs or whatever. So all the kids wouldn't care about that. They would just be like, you know what, even though he can't make shadow clones, we don't want to mess with him because, you know, he could still beat us up. At least that's the vibe that he gave people. And so the people who actually watched Yu Yu Hakusho might be asking, Wait, so the only reason Yusuke was able to fight as well as he did was because he got into a lot of street fights. How would that be implied here? And I think the whole thing with Yusuke was he wouldn't do as hardcore as training as Lee, but he would kind of do some training that Lee does, and he would get into fights with, like, I don't want to say bums, but in like the darker parts of Konoha, or he would like steal something and be very quick to steal it. And I think with everything, I think he would just be Sasuke without chakra. I think that's the best way to put it. He'd pretty much be Sasuke and skills and everything, just without chakra and the 2 fireballs. And so the real question lies, alright, so how would he affect Naruto's world? Well, besides being in Naruto's class, I'm trying to figure out, what would he do? Well, first off, he'd be given an exception just like Lee, where yes, he may not be able to use Jitsu, but he is pretty efficient at fighting, so I think we can pass him as a ninja. After that, we'll have to figure out what team we should put him on. And many of you guys are asking, yeah, you're right, you're adding a whole other character. And with the whole like rule of 4 where it's 1 Jonin and 3 Chunin or Genin, and that's like the most optimal thing, I'll go, okay, well, sure. But I play a game that not many people played. I stopped playing it a couple like days ago, so I guess you can't really say I stopped playing the game. But I've taken a bit of a break from it, and it's called Naruto Online. The story mode isn't that great, it's kind of tedious, but what they did in Naruto Online was that your character was just thrown into Naruto's team. And I think that's what I'll probably do with Yusuke, where because they had an odd number of students, which I believe in Naruto, the academy makes sure that they don't have odd numbers of students, but you know what, this is a what if, so who cares. Anyway, what would happen here would be Yusuke would be thrown onto Naruto's team, because he's pretty much a mix of Naruto and Sasuke. He has the battle ability and the same attitude as Sasuke, but he still does the actions of Naruto. So he had the grades, but still skipped class. So if that makes sense to you, I'm glad you understand. And now this is the part where I start to speedrun Naruto. So, during the bell test, I just want to say that Sakura and Sasuke would do the same thing, and Naruto, after learning the multi-shadow clone jutsu, would still have the confidence to go against Kakashi. And the only change here would pretty much be Yusuke's involvement. Now, as we know, Yusuke was a very, like, battle-hungry kid, so he would probably join Naruto. And he was better than Naruto in hand-to-hand combat because he's pretty much Sasuke's level. So when they were going to attack Kakashi, Kakashi would notice how Naruto wasn't as efficient at taijutsu, but Yusuke would have a couple tricks up his sleeve and would have some skill in fighting. So when going against the like 30 Narutos and 1 Yusuke, he would make sure to try to block when Yusuke attacks, which Naruto would actually make note of, and he would probably pull the whole scheme of changing into his teammates to throw the opponent off. But of course Kakashi would quickly see through this and be able to tell when it was Naruto and when it was Yusuke. So when Kakashi actually tried, he'd pretty much put Yusuke out of commission for the little bit, almost right off the bat, which would actually spook Naruto a little, when he'd be like, oh damn, if Yusuke got easily whacked, then probably I will too. And then while thinking of that, Kakashi would pretty much instantly hit him. Which would also warn Sasuke as well, because Sasuke would be like, wait, he's as good as me at fighting hand to hand, if not a little bit better, which he'd be a little bit peeved off to think about. And he would go, well, maybe I don't stand that much of a chance too. And then Sasuke, being a bit full of himself, would be like, but he doesn't have the fireball jutsu, which I do. And so Sasuke would go ahead and try to attack, and after Yusuke getting clapped by Kakashi, everything would go the same as it did in canon, up until they tied up Naruto. Yusuke would then wake up and be like, oh wait, it's lunchtime, and he would kind of just start chowing down, just eating super quickly, almost like it was Goku style. Then his team would bring up that they need to feed Naruto in order to at least have a chance, and Naruto would agree and all that. Yusuke would actually kind of get pissed off about this because he didn't want to fail. But when his teammates were talking to him, he would be convinced. So he would just stand up and yell, "Damn it!" And then would just pretty much be yelling towards that memorial stone, "Just let Naruto eat, damn it!" And quickly Sakura would be like, "Yusuke, just sit down. We'll just give it to him now." Yusuke would scratch his head in like kind of nervousness and not wanting to do it, but he would shrug and hesitantly agree and would look at Sakura and would pretty much say, "Fine, but we better do it quickly before he catches us." And then after that, everything would go the same as it did in canon, with Kakashi going and passing them because they passed the test because they were working together as a team. And that's it for part 1. But for sure, part 2 will be a lot quicker and we'll get through a lot more. But I'm actually pretty excited for this What If because I'm actually still watching Yu Yu Hakusho, but I did just finish the Dark Tournament arc. So, yeah, if you haven't watched Yu Yu Hakusho yet, I want to say you can binge it pretty well. It doesn't have any filler or anything like that, but it is a pretty old and long, well, not long, but it's a pretty old anime. So if you watch it, you're going to be like, bro, the fights are pretty lame, but I'm enjoying it. I think it's pretty cool. I like the whole concept of it. But anyway, I'm going to head out. This was Game Steak. Also, quick shout out to Six, because he's really helping me a lot. And go watch some of his videos because they might be edited by me. And if you can tell they're edited by me, well then, Pog. Anyway, have a good day and look forward to part 2.